Call Colin King.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise and speak in the second reading of the Education Amendment Bill number 4. And may I too congratulate the Chairman, Alan Peachey, and other members of the Select Committee for the diligent way that they have worked on this very important piece of legislation that really will improve our tertiary education system, and especially when you consider the aspects of it, Mr Speaker, that export education contributes $2 billion to the New Zealand economy, and on that basis one can begin to understand how important this piece of legislation is, that we actually improve and enhance the reputation of New Zealand. The NZQA, it is long overdue to be modernised and improved, and of course the evidence that has been spoken in the House today about student fees, they certainly need to be brought under control. So just in conclusion, Mr Speaker, I'd just like to draw the the member from the Green Party's attention to the work that was done in Select Committee in adjusting the powers of the Minister. And in actual fact, in 227(1)(b), it contains a lot of work there that was rewritten, and the Select Committee took on board the comments and the views of the members on that Select Committee and adjusted it. And in actual fact, all the Minister can do now is advise and direct. He can't actually tell those institutions what to do. So I think the Green member was well out of order in talking the way he did. So I just leave that there. The other point that is quite interesting inside the legislation is with change and with modernising and improving, there's always those transitional arrangements. And in Part 2 of this legislation, there was a lot of work done to improve the transitional arrangements, because there are organisations that are delivering training at the moment that will be affected by it, and provided they react appropriately within the legislation within a 12-month time frame, they will be able to continue doing what they're doing. So very good legislation, Mr Speaker, and I commend it to the House.
Thank you. The Honourable Steve Chadwick.
Yes, I rise to take a call to say that we support this bill, but do have some concerns about the powers that are given to the Minister in this bill. For all that members of government say this is just a tidy up and it's looking at the strengthening of the New Zealand Qualifications Authority, looking at the regulations around private training establishments, there are some aspects of the way that the Minister has put some squeezes on the tertiary education sector that we are really worried about. And there is a certain irony that we're debating this a week after we've debated at length about the impact of the VSM on universities and students, and the effect that that will have on student participation and student input into the tertiary sector. And I think, Mr Speaker, when we're looking at a bill that looks at fee-setting mechanisms and transparency, it's absolutely critical that students have the capacity to be consulted, one, and then to have a voice back to the ruling council about a fee-setting mechanism, and that will be taken away because there won't be student associations around the country, and that really worries me, along with the funding cuts that have happened, and also funding cuts that we've seen in adult and community education and all those other portals that allow access into learning and lifelong learning that are so critical. And I come from an area where second chance education means such a lot. And why there? It is the union that helps those adult learners know what sort of range of services they can get, know what is a fair fee-setting mechanism, and those opportunities will be taken from the polytech sector that I'm more familiar with. I'm worried that Mr Joyce has already cut $145 million from industry training, and we've seen the drop in industry training by 30,000, and that worries me, and a drop in modern apprenticeships by 10%. I've had meetings with our Polytech in Rotorua, and they've said they could have taken many more students but for the cut and the cap that has been put on student numbers, and I find that irresponsible from a minister that then comes to the House and says he believes in transparency, he believes in tidying up the loose ends of a sector. Tidy up the loose ends of the sector, do it in a transparent way, and that's why we're supporting this bill to Select Committee, so that we can hear back from various sectors that are going to be impacted on, and they can give us their view through a proper Select Committee process, Mr Chair. So we will be supporting this, but I don't think this is just a pro forma bill tidying up aspects of the tertiary education sector at all. I do agree one aspect that I am happy to see, but again there's a delicious irony in the fact that some Crown entities are being forced together today, and yet here is the establishment, I understand, of a new industry group to look at export education. For all that is needed, I'm wondering about the timeliness of that when such constraints are being put on public sector service delivery, and I think that there are some rather odd messages coming out by the Minister tabling this bill in the House. But because we believe in democracy and community participation in this so-called non-controversial bill, we will support this bill to Select Committee to allow that Select Committee process and submissions. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Louise